Namaste and hello everyone. My name is Shivika and welcome to yet another episode on Careers Beyond Degree. Well, my background is really different and I'm sure you're aware by now because obviously, but I'm at my sister's right now and this is where I just finished shooting the new podcast. So I thought, how about I have the introduction video outside somewhere so it's like nice and different and green and lush. So this is Oxfordshire. I'm in Bicester at the moment, basically. But in today's podcast, I have with me someone who's got a lot of knowledge about working with brands, content creation, and how to build a brand and brand kit, and what tools can you use, and how can you start your content creation journey on the side with your 9 to 5, and what it's like working with a brand during university. So if this is you, if this is something that you would love to learn more about, and if you'd love to learn more about her journey, how she managed all of this, how she landed all these internships and apprenticeships, then stay tuned and keep watching. Hi, Priyanka. Thank you so much for coming on Careers Beyond Degree. It's a pleasure to have you. Before we start and I learn more about your journey and what you've been up to in the UK, we're going to do the usual start with introductions. So please introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Priyanka. I'm a 17-month-old Londoner and a marketing and branding professional, originally from Delhi, India. I moved to the UK to pursue my long due master's in marketing and brand management from Kingston University and to relive the student life a bit as well. I've spent like over 3 years working across different niches in the lifestyle space back home, and I'm really excited to be here, talk to you, and share a bit about my journey.
Amazing. How's your time been in the UK so far, being a
So
Londoner?
far, yeah, it's been fun. It's been a roller coaster ride, to say the least. But to enjoy is a part of the process. I mean, of course, there are hurdles and ups and downs, but then I make sure to enjoy the most of it.
What do you like most about London?
It is so culturally diverse. I mean, you go there, everything's happening. There's something or the other happening, and it is so diverse. That's the best thing that I found here. Like I met a lot of people, a lot of friends from different walks of life, and you realize that there's so much more to life than just sitting in one city that you're born in. So the freedom that it gave me, and then the opportunities that it has to offer, is something that I really love about London.
What do you like the least about London?
The weather switches, no doubts on that.
The weather switches.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, you're experiencing like three weathers in 1 hour, and it's funny that I still get surprised by the frequency of it, but it is what it is.
No, I agree with that because the weather here changes like any minute. I was just looking at the weather next week and it's been so nice and sunny up north all this while. And then from Friday onward, it's raining again. I'm like, no way, we don't want the rain right now. It's,
I mean, it's funny that you oscillate between turning your fan on to your heating in like days.
yeah. But is
This
it
is
nice and warm right now?
Yeah. Luckily, let's see how long that lasts.
Right. I hope so. It lasts longer than usual
Yeah.
because the summer can go away like in a minute, basically, over here.
But so far, it's been nice and sunny.
That's wonderful. I did go through your LinkedIn profile, and there was a lot of experience that you've had so far. And I would love to learn about how did you land all those internships, all those apprenticeships that you've applied for? What was your experience like? And why do you feel it's all important for you, to gain so much experience in today's time?
So honestly, I'd say it came down to networking and being really intentional online. Say mindful scrolling, I'd say. Because I wasn't just, passively consuming content. I was paying attention to how brands moved, how agencies position themselves, and who's doing what work that excites you. And funnily enough, like I found my first job on a Facebook marketing group. May sound very ancient, but it wasn't too long ago. And I've been very lucky to start my career at a few very solid agencies that, had incredible clientele. And what I loved about the agency life is that you really get to do everything, say from market research to content creation. Then eventually it led to client facing roles, running ads. It was really a whole mix. It's really fast paced, I won't deny, but it teaches you so much. And I feel that's the thing about marketing. It's not just the polished campaigns that you see online. It's a lot that goes behind the scenes, say your brainstorming, your strategy, reporting, and even like tackling the last minute chaos. You learn to manage everything, and I feel like those experiences have really shaped me and helped me sort of realized that, it is something that I really wanted to pursue. And that's the reason why I came to the UK to do my master's in the same field.
Amazing. I've also seen that you were working during university with Superdrug as the retail assistant, and even now, right? You're still
Yes,
continuing with that job. How do
yes.
you find it?
It's been great, to be very honest, because, when I worked in marketing, I used to work with a lot of beauty clients. So when I found this opportunity, initially I was looking for obviously marketing internships, but that's really hard to get into considering I'm an international student and I had some visa restrictions. So the next best thing that, I found was retail, because, here you could really channelize your client facing roles and you really get to know, how the market really works. So I'm a Jan and Take student. So I started with Superdrug during the end of my first semester. So initially it was okay because summer came in and we didn't have really classes during summer. So it was really manageable. But then, later when classes started and dissertation was due, there were like academic obstacles, and then, this was also, so it was not easy, but I'd say it gave me so much because I learned to prioritize tasks. I learned time management because we are very privileged. We didn't have to do anything back home, but here you have to do everything. So, doing all that and then working part time and then handling your academic thing, it just really builds character and it helps you learn so much. So I'm so glad that I did that.
Is there anything about Superdrug that a normal customer won't know, but you know that we should know?
Yes, so because, like here, it's not like if you're just like a part-time employee, you're not treated like a full-time employee. You do get the insights of the company, which is the great part about here. Even the perks are very similar to a full-time employee as well. So, really like all the promotions that they keep doing, you get the insights of it, what's working, what's not. And as a marketer and having worked in the beauty industry, that's really insightful for me because you figure trends. We have access to the internal platform where they keep posting the weekly reports and the monthly reports. That's a very interesting insight as to say, what's working, say considering. I feel as a marketing professional it just worked really well for me because uh, say what's trending on TikTok, is it actually translating into sales? Now I, as a retail assistant, could figure that. So that was something very unique that I got to learn about, the UK market from Superdrug.
And do you think the virality of any product on TikTok kind of converts into sales?
100%, hundred
Yeah.
percent. Yeah,
I see some of these influencers and some of the creators who post like about something random, and then it becomes really viral and suddenly it's out of stock from all the
yeah.
shelves. And then I kind of think to myself, wow, they really have an impact. They really have kind of an influence where the minute they say something, people want to buy that.
Yeah, so I've had like customers coming in with say screenshots of products. Oh, do you have this? Do you have that? And then I get to know, oh, it's really trending. So, because in India we don't have TikTok, so I wasn't really consuming that content. But moving here, like because of that, I just started consuming. It's actually like a lot different because it's very organic and like it's not very polished. So that I feel is really helping the UK market and like the influencer space in this country.
This is a bit out of context, but I'd love to know what are the three things from Superdrug that you would recommend to someone watching this?
They better sponsor me now or give me like a full time job. So honestly, they do excellent stuff. Like I've been loyal. My friends ask me, "Do you use your employee discount?" I'd say I exploit it
Right, amazing.
because their own brand products are actually dupes of really high end ones, like the setting spray. It's really really good. Then the face masks that they do, it's really really nice. And then the vitamins because they have ample variety and honestly, it's as a fraction of cost of what the actual other brands do.
Also, would you recommend their vitamins then?
Because I've been consuming it and it's been a year now.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
That's
and as a student,
interesting.
because we have to really do the budgeting as well. So, they are literally at like a fraction of cost. So, and they work really well too.
That's nice because I kind of always think of vitamins getting them from places like Holland and Barrett, but they're so expensive. And sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, can I really? I mean, it's health end of day. So I think maybe if I want to invest all that money into that, so that's fine. But if I can get it cheaper, then why not?
That's true. And even like the makeup products that they do, because we do get the insights and, they tell us how we can market it. So say one of the setting spray, they say it's actually the dupe of Charlotte Tilbury. Now Charlotte Tilbury is what, 45 pounds and they sell it for 7 pounds.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's magic. The massive
That
difference.
is that is a
Yeah.
big difference, definitely.
Yeah.
Working with a lot of brands, and as you mentioned that you're a marketer, if you can also clarify what does a marketer do for someone who wants to become a marketer, that's one. And then the second thing I would love to know from you, that having worked with so many brands, what do you think is the future of content creation in terms of brands? Like, where is it going?
So I'd say as a marketer, it's a very holistic role. You can't put it into, like two, three liner sentence or two, three words. Because it starts with, say, your strategy, your market research, your event marketing communications plan, to your, like behind the scenes logistics. It's a lot that you need to really take care of. It's, like I mentioned, it's not just a polished campaign that you see. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes, and there are different teams working to make one campaign happen. So that, and as for like the creator space, I'd say it's a very evolving and booming space. Creators now I feel are not just about your aesthetics or your follower count anymore. It's way more than that. And in India, if I have to say, draw a comparison between UK and India, I'd say in India we used to focus a lot more on the micro influencers, because the tier 2 and tier 3 cities are really booming, and they only relate to your relatable, like people who they can relate to. But in UK, I've noticed, because that's TikTok, there's a lot of like emphasis on user generated content. Say,
Right.
while I'm not working at Superdrug's marketing team yet, okay, I see that they actually tie up with the real customers, and even one of the campaigns that they did, they didn't hire your influencers like people with say 1 million followers. They actually hired real people who are actually building content, because TikTok, it's just like if your content is nice and it's useful, it'll pick up.
Right.
You don't need your specific production team, or you're like a particular script to make it work. So that's the difference that I observed. But having said that, there's also cultural layers to this. In India, content tends to be big on storytelling and community, and influencers are literally like, people treat them like their aspirational best friends.
True.
But in the UK, the term's more underrated, like understated. Creators blend in rather than they stand out. It's different kind of influence, but I'd say it's just equally as powerful. Yeah.
Right. So, if, say, for example, if there's, because you made a little bit of comparison between India and the UK, if someone comes to the UK and wants to start their content creation journey, they will have to leave that little bit of baggage from India of how things work and then start something else over here, isn't it? Like have a new, different kind of a start, would you say?
Yes, because your audience varies. So I'd say, if someone's starting out fresh in the content creation space, I'd say first look at it as a creative outlet more than a
Right.
source of like monetary income. Because if something's not coming to you naturally, then you can't sustain it for long term. So you really need to, like, say, I'd say, figure your niche. And like I said, user generated content is big in this country. So, you can maybe say buy a product, build content around it. And if you're actually sustaining your momentum, then brands will start noticing you.
Right.
So, yeah. So I'd say more like a creative outlet than, and then eventually, if it works for you, money will follow.
Amazing. That's something very interesting. And I love that approach that you've just mentioned because I do create content myself as well. And sometimes I wonder that why is it not working as well as it would work for an Indian, for somebody in India and creating that, the similar kind of content. But I guess the idea behind is more or less whether you have to create more user generated content instead of thinking of it from an Indian mindset because the creators there are creating it like that. You don't have to do the similar thing over here because the audience is completely different then.
Yeah, completely. And in when we talk about UK, it's not just the British people that we're addressing. it's a hub of like a lot of nationalities. So
True.
it's a very mixed crowd that you're catering to. While when we say India, it's very niche specific.
Hmm.
So that also I feel is a very distinguishing factor, and that's something that one needs to keep in mind.
So for someone who doesn't know how to find their niche, you mentioned like having a niche. What would you say they should do to find their niche?
I'd say start with noticing what attracts you. Is it fashion? Is it beauty? Is it finance? Or is it some ed tech? So, and then if you're not sure, then maybe try different content forms, like maybe do a content on this, and then you go back to your analytics and see what's working,
Right.
and then analyze if you actually have it in you to build more on that. Because honestly, like platforms like Instagram, TikTok have really advanced so much. There's so much insight available, you know, and it's very easy to decipher also at your end. And there's no harm in testing waters. I mean, you're just starting out. There's room for experimentation to see what works for you, and then your analytics will tell you more if it's actually working.
I definitely agree with that. And I also watch this YouTuber all the time called Ali Abdal, and I watch a lot of his videos. Watch a lot of his content, and he says something like, create your first 100 videos. Before
Yeah,
that, don't even think about anything. Don't think about how to create content or how to find a niche, nothing. Just create 100 first videos of anything, and by the time you reach your 100, you will have some idea. I think that's how I figured out my niche as well. So in terms of content creation, firstly, I never wanted to be a content creator, but okay, I became one eventually. When I became one, I started with finance content, and then I was like, but I don't think I have enough knowledge for this, so I'll always keep finding people who have the knowledge, and then going to other stuff, and eventually I was like, I do have experience and knowledge about how international students work and how professionals work. And now being on the business visas for so many years, I was like, I know how to do that. How about I talk about that? So it took me good, I think 600, 500 pieces of content to eventually realize, okay, this is what I need to do and what I enjoy doing. I mean, I can sit down now and create that video. But if it was fashion or beauty or makeup, I'll be like, oh, never mind. Because I I like to get ready only when it's a purpose. I can't do it just out of the enjoyment of doing it, you know? Like my sister loves to do makeup, but I like to do makeup when I'm getting ready. So I knew that I can't take it long term. I won't be able to like create content just 8 in the morning. Let's do a nice skincare. But I love skincare. So something I figured out very recently as well, that I would love to create content on skincare, maybe. Not makeup, but maybe skincare. So I think you're right. There's also this thing where you consistently keep showing up, showing up, showing up. You refine your skills, and then you kind of know where and which direction you want to go into.
consistency is key. If you have to, last really long, you have to be consistent, and at the same time, I'd say be authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
because nothing beats that. I feel that's the only distinguishing factor you'll have.
I think gone are the
Content,
days when you have to be like all proper and aesthetically amazing. It doesn't work like
it
that
doesn't
now.
work anymore. It doesn't work anymore because there's so much content on the internet. I mean, like you see your screen time. I feel it's just absurd. I mean, it's almost embarrassing because you're mindlessly scrolling. But at the same time, like if you're actually putting in the work, make it your own voice.
No, if you talk about screen time, oh my gosh, the last week I was having this discussion with my sister. I'm like, my head is hurting. She's like, why? I was like, I'm scrolling on my screen since I've come back from outside. She's like, how long has it been? I was like, let me check my screen time. 16 hours
God,
that I've
God.
been on my screen. I mean, like, oh, I was like, I need to set some boundaries. But, at the end of the day, the way I work, and I work from home, and I'm also like freelancing and consulting. So the minute I wake up, I'm like, okay, let's check emails from bed. So
Yes,
I've
that's
literally started work. So I think I'm working, but I'm kind of damaging a lot of my creative side and a lot of other psychological things that they talk about online.
yeah,
So I should change that. But yeah, it is what it is. I guess they just hook you in a way.
everything now is at a disposal of one's wife. But at the same time, I feel like you need to set boundaries. I mean, like even I've learned,
100%.
yeah, and step out and just put your phone aside for once.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think I try and do that while cooking. I'm like, okay, I can't keep scrolling. Let me put my phone aside and go just cook food right now. So that's a little 30-minute, 45-minute break that I try to keep.
And having said that, like even traditional marketing, as mentioned, is dying. Like in India, completely, it's dead. Like no one goes back to your newspapers or your magazines.
Yeah,
Magazines are dying. But here, I feel like in the UK, because there's a lot of like outdoor culture, especially in the suburbs. I feel like people in the UK actually live in summer and just survive in winter. So you see like so many events are happening. Like like the other day I saw so many like pop-ups are happening at Covent Garden. So I feel some bit of it is left, and we should really hold on to it.
definitely. And I love the fact where you said people live in summer and survive in winters. That's really cool. I think that summarizes UK life in a way. Well, I would love to know from you as well, as say someone who is starting up and is very entrepreneurial about their life and their career. What would you say? It took me a long time to understand these things, so I would love to learn from you as well. What would you say they should do when they first start out their product or service as a brand? What should they have in place according to you?
Okay, so I'd say if you're starting a business and not really sure how branding works or what you need to do early on, the thing is that branding isn't just your fancy logos or fancy website. It's about knowing who you are and who you want to serve. Before you decide to spend your money on ads or design, I'd say get a clarity on what problem your business is going to address and why it matters to the consumers, because starting to say figure out a brand's personality, that's also very important. You have to understand who you really are you fun and playful, or are you serious and trustworthy, or something else? Because then this will help you decide who your customers are and how you want to talk to them and how the business feels to them, because at the end of the day they are who we are addressing to, right? So I'd say, and like speaking of branding, you have to make sure your visuals are consistent. A logo, a color, font, everything should fit to the personality of the brand, because that's going to be a distinguishing factor. And that's how people start recognizing you. But I'd also say that, don't stress on making it perfect from day one. Your brand will grow as your business grows. And most importantly, like we discussed, focus on authenticity, because you have to be honest as to why you started and what you stand for, because people connect with your stories. And you have to, I'd say, also get your customers involved early on, take their feedback properly, and get clarity.
Right. Is there any tool that you would suggest to new founders they can use to, create their brand kit?
Yes. So there are a lot of like trend reports that a lot of websites do, say Statista and marketing, like a lot of marketing pages. So that's really insightful. Like as a marketer, I also keep up with what's happening. There's this Instagram page called Girls in Marketing. Like so these kind of pages and communities just keep up with what's trending. So you have to really like keep up with the trends, and then I feel it also helps you identify the gaps in the market, and that's where you can like fit in.
Right. And any tools for creating brand kits like your logos and your color scheme and fonts and everything?
So for starters, Canva is great. Honestly,
Right.
it's very easy to navigate, and you can, if you wanna like step up, just get like the premium feature. It gives you access. So
Right.
for starters, Canva is excellent, and then you have your Photoshop and design and stuff. But I think that's for later.
Yeah, true. I think I use Canva as well for everything. So that works perfectly well. And it's so easy. You can just create anything. I feel like a brand
Yeah,
head of something when I do it because it's so easy.
yeah. Like even in uni, like we had this very interesting module, branding design. So it was all about design thinking. So there also, we had to like actually reimagine a brand that's in crisis. So we had to build up like a whole brand kit, like everything, their vision, mission, logo, and everything. And I did all that on Canva, and I got a pretty high grade in that. So Canva is great.
You seem like a very high achiever, aren't you? You've got like distinctions everywhere and whatnot. How do you do that?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to, I'd say, find something that I really enjoy, because back in school I took up science. thinking to get into
Hmm.
engineering or architecture. But I'm glad early on I realized that this is not my thing. And then, like I mentioned, I found my calling. I actually started, I took time to say, figure what, naturally inclines towards me. And then I feel social media was it because, while I used to like during my travels, I used to post stories and stuff. And while I was doing it out of like effort, but a lot of people started coming to me saying that, oh, they're really nice, they're very distinguished. And then I thought, I might as well just give it a shot because this doesn't feel like work. I actually enjoy it. So yeah, that's been that. And even with uni, I mean, while it was a very, very stressful 1 year, I actually made sure I actually enjoyed working on the assignments, which might come as a surprise, but I actually did.
That's wonderful. In particular, I would love to know, did Kingston Uni kind of help you in your overall journey in terms of getting to where you wanted to? So, for example, I spoke to one of the previous guests where she mentioned about how the university really had a role in nurturing her interests and nurturing the way she wanted to lead life with her skills and what she wanted to learn and the assignments she got. Was it the same case with Kingston, or did you have to really go out of your way to find opportunities?
So the thing is, I just finished in January, so I'm also, still transitioning into like a full time role and getting my graduate visa. So I'm also in transition. But I'd say, because I did a master's, I would strongly say, and I heard that podcast, that actually come with experience. Don't just come after graduating. Because when you
Right.
actually study and then you work in the field, they are very two different things. Because even in my undergrad, like what I studied versus what I worked was very different. And the actual picture I got when I started working. So, that's when you actually realize that if this is something you want to do or you don't want to do. So, and honestly, I came with like realistic expectations because while I knew that, this course is going to help me because it was certified by CIF, which is really important in the UK. So that was one of the reasons why I went to Kingston. I also knew that it's not gonna be like say make me ready for the industry. And this conversation I've had with my course mates as well. But it gives you like a holistic overview. It prepares you. It like builds your foundation, I'd say. But then it doesn't offer the very practical side of things.
Which
You
you
know why?
felt during uni.
So
Okay.
while it helped us understand, say, buyer behavior, how does the strategic marketing work, your design thinking, but we didn't have any opportunity to say work in real world. So that's the gap that I found. But then I felt I was in a safer situation because I had worked back home. So I wasn't shocked when it happened.
Right.
Yeah. So that's something that I felt. So Kingston, in terms of modules, was great. Like I mentioned, consumer behavior and all these are very important. But the practical side I felt was missing. So that's important when you work in the field.
I think I've kind of figured this out, and I've kind of realized after speaking to so many international students and people who've graduated that every university has a different kind of support system in terms of what they offer you. Because like I mentioned, I don't think Warwick really helped us in terms of skill development. They definitely helped us academically. But then I spoke to one person from Cranfield and he said there was so much support in terms of career. Then again, I spoke to another person from another university where she mentioned how much support she got during university and a lot of practical knowledge. But I guess I wish that all universities kind of offer something to prepare graduates before they even graduating to get some kind of practical experience, even if it's like 1 month, because I kind of got the experience to just give presentations and stuff, but I did not know. So I did my master's in international relations. So if I wanted to join the United Nations eventually, or if I wanted to work with an embassy, I had no idea what to do. Like I had no idea what the job role will have in any way. So I wish they did prepare us better for that.
Yeah, because here I draw a comparison with my undergrad. There was like compulsory internships.
Right.
So we had to do one every year. So that even though we had to like work for 2 months, but that was also at least something that we actually got the practical exposure. But then everything has its pros and cons. Here we did a
True.
master's in 1 year, which is incredible compared to like other countries. So yeah,
Right.
but I say if you come with experience and realistic expectation, things get better. Because eventually, I think you have to drive your career. Like no one's gonna do it for you. There's no culture of spoon feeding in this country. So yeah, that's what
No,
I
I
felt.
agree with that. Yeah, you have to, even if you don't find opportunities, then you just need to, chase something and find something for yourself. That's the only way to go about it.
Yes,
Well, I would love to also know quickly. You mentioned that Kingston is CIM, isn't it?
yeah.
Certified. What does that mean for somebody wanting to
Okay.
start?
So it's Chartered Institute of Marketing, which is really big in the UK. So they have certifications which you can, additionally opt for. But Kingston University's degree was certified by it. Even like it was optional though, but obviously I went for it. There was like a crash course of the certification, and you see if you see job descriptions, say at big high-end companies, it's actually one of the necessities for the recruiters to have the
Right.
certification. So that was really good that Kingston's degree was accredited by it, and additionally we had the opportunity to do additional certification in span of 2 months. So it was digital marketing techniques, which a module we didn't have, and that's really really of the art in today's time and world. So that was something that was a plus point for Kingston, I'd say.
Wow, that's wonderful. Something new I learned today. I wasn't aware of this, so that's good. Well, I would love to go back to the whole content creation bit. Do you think today influencers and content creators and people who are like artists in the social media world, are they like really influencing the way people perceive brands, and people kind of end up going and shopping for these brands just because an influencer has said? And why do you think that is happening so much?
Okay, so I'd say influencers are actually changing how people see brands and products, because it's not just about your celebrity endorsements anymore. It's about everyday creators who feel more relatable and trustworthy. So I'd say people tend to trust influencers because they seem more authentic and approachable compared to traditional ads. And I was actually listening to this podcast, which featured Adam Hossery, the CEO of Instagram, and he said something that really stuck with me as to how creators are the actual new media, and how Instagram's role is shifting to support that. He mentioned that people just want polished, perfect content. They want real stories and real connections, and that I feel really sums up, because influencers, be it say your micro or nano, are really helping brands cut through the noise by creating content that feels more personal and honest. Um, Say the latest example, the Cannes Film Festival. Like a lot of brands have sent influencers to endorse their brand. They did not hire celebrities.
Right.
So that's a very live example that we see in front of us. So it's actually changing the narrative. And having worked in the retail field, it is actually working, I'd say.
So, if someone like an international student or a professional may be doing whatever they're doing in their lives, and how can they start their content creation journey? So, for example, if they're into 9 to 5 and they want to start the side hustle and they know that they have an interest area, they're comfortable with camera and whatnot, what would you advise them? How can they start this journey? What strategies should they keep in mind when they're starting off? And what should the first, say, 6 months look like for them, according to you?
Once you've finalized your niche and what topics you want to address, I just start with working on scripting of short form content, because that's really working.
Right.
Like on Instagram, if you don't find a hook within first 3 seconds, people will scroll past you. So say start with your basic, like with your phone content. Maybe you can shoot it at your convenience and give something insightful for the audience. Not just what's readily available on the internet, but like a very relatable take. I see a lot of, ever since I've moved to the UK, a lot of international students are now professionals who've started a side hustle of doing this, because while they're addressing to the Indian community that has already moved to the UK, they're also addressing to a lot of newer segments as well. So short form content, I'd say, and useful content.
Useful content.
Yeah.
And are there any tips for how to get that right video? In terms of, a lot of people think about getting the best camera, best phone, and best tripod and best lighting. What is the most affordable way of creating a setup according to you?
Your phone camera works perfectly fine. Just make sure you use good lighting, and because there can be like a diction or like a accent change, make sure you use subtitles and keep your video really short. And I'd say for starters, try like posting different times and make sure you leverage TikTok because that's really big in this country. And then of course, like, you know, cross promote your content. And then also, I've also noticed that your personal branding is so important. So, you know, make sure you have your solid presence on LinkedIn because that's where people find you.
Do you think a personal brand is very important for everyone today?
It is indeed. If you're putting yourself out there, I feel social media is the thing. While on Instagram, you know, it's more just visuals. LinkedIn, I feel, comes in really handy because you can actually, you know, it's got everything in a very professional way, which is much needed. It's not your cringe content. It's the actual, you know, like professional content out there. So personal branding is so important because it's like your personal portfolio that's accessible to every person in the world.
Right. I think that's something I advise to everyone as well, because a lot of people come to me talking about they're not getting a job, there's no CV, or the CV is incomplete. And I always tell them, if you don't have a portfolio, which you need to create, say on LinkedIn, if you're finding a job, if you keep the content creation bit aside, then how do you expect someone to feel like you have an edge over others, and this is the candidate I want to speak to because he or she has made the effort to, create a LinkedIn profile where they're active, they're sharing their opinion, they're also talking about what they feel about things or trends in the industry. And that's where a personal brand or a portfolio comes into picture that can really be helpful.
Yeah, that is very important because you know, no one's gonna believe your words unless you show your results. So that's
Yeah,
I,
unless you have like 15 skills on your CV, somebody's be like
yeah.
was going to be like, can you
No,
prove it?
you can put any skill, but I like from what I have heard, like talking to a lot of career counselors and you know, like doing my research. If you don't show impact, it's not gonna be helpful. Everyone can say, you know, oh, I have interned in so and so company. But if you say, I have interned in so and so company and made this change, it's going to be more helpful and it's going to give you the edge that, you know, the recruiters are looking for.
Right. As somebody who's worked with so many brands and you've been an insider for so many brands, I'd love to know, and if you can even, if it's a myth, are brands only tying up with bigger creators, or are they okay with collaborations with smaller creators? And if so, how can a small creator with like 2,000 or 5,000 or even 500 followers reach out to a brand for a collaboration, whatever kind of collaboration that may be?
Okay, so it differs, I'd say, region to region. If you're talking of UK, yes, if you have like 1,000 followers, you can email the brand or you can just buy the product and, you know, just put yourself out there, like show them what you can offer. That is very important. And it's not like, you know, like I said, celebrities were the big thing once upon a time. But now influencers took over. Now those mega influencers were a thing. Now nano influencers have taken over. So, you know, it's not your numbers or your aesthetics that's talking now, but it's actually what you're offering. Make sure what you produce is distinguished. And like I said, network, not just on Instagram. Like, don't message the company page on Instagram. You will never hear back. But if you find people who are working in that company on, say, LinkedIn, and maybe link your video, it might just increase your chances of, you know, like getting, say, your PR or collaborations. So first, I'd say build a portfolio and then reach out to people.
Right. So first, show up and say that you have value, you can provide value, and only then go out to brands. Right. Amazing. Thank you for those tips. That'll be very handy for a lot of people, I'm very sure. But as we come to the end of this conversation, you mentioned early on in the beginning of this conversation that you are as well transitioning to your graduate route now. I'd love to know, I know you're not there yet, but I'd love to know how can people make the most of their graduate route, and what are your plans with your graduate route?
Okay. So I'd say as long as we still have 24 months on this visa, the best way would be to leverage it to actually test the waters, whether it's say freelancing, interning, or working with startups. It's actually the time to try different roles and industries without feeling boxed in. You know, don't aim for say your big leagues because to be honest, that's hard to get into, especially if you don't have any experience. But if you work in like say small startups and actually, you know, make things happen, make impact, and then reach out to those companies, then your chances of getting like a sponsored role would be better. So use this time wisely to seek different opportunities, and ensure you build like a strong local portfolio, because UK employers really value work experience in the market, even if it's your part-time roles or internships or projects. Just show value. And I'd also say that, invest your time in your personal brand, especially LinkedIn, like we have discussed. Share your work, your insights, and engage with people from your field regularly. So I feel that's where the 24 months are going to pass by.
Beautiful. I'm glad you didn't say find a job, find a job, find a job. You mentioned about the other things where it's actually what the graduate route was started for, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because I think so many students kind of focus on, I won't say the wrong thing, but they prioritize something that's step number two instead of prioritizing step number one. Test the waters, build your skills. This is the time to work with a small company and learn skills and learn how you can navigate the whole UK work culture. But I think everybody's so busy just landing a job that they miss out on so much that they can spend time on whilst they're in the country.
yeah. Because if you say you don't have any work experience, I mean, the big leagues will not cater. Let's be honest, that's a hard fact. So, and just getting the work experience is so crucial. Like, even if you get to, say, do any internship, say, at like, I got it for like just a month, like internship with like a restaurant to do their social media, though it didn't last very long. At least it gave me the opportunity to actually work with them and make content, and that actually made it to my portfolio. So I'd say don't, skip on any opportunities that come your way. Make use of everything.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, as we now close this podcast, I would love to know and any final words for any incoming students for September intake, January intake from your end?
I'd say come with realistic expectations, please. It's not all roses, and at the same time, it's not bad either. You navigate your journey, and also one thing that I observed is people like reach out to, like even I reached out to asking people about their experiences. Don't shape your opinions based that, because your journey is going to be very different, and it's going to be based on how you navigate it. So find your path and network, meet a lot of people, talk to a lot of people, get out of your comfort zone. You're in a new country, you're actually starting from scratch. So make sure you don't miss out on any opportunities, and work hard, but make sure you enjoy as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for this wonderful conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Of
And thank
course,
you so much for your time today. How did you feel about the podcast?
it's been great. It's been insightful. It's been like a reflection on my journey, which I got to do via this podcast. So that's been great. And yeah, thank you
Wonderful.
for
Thank you so much. No, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for sharing all the secrets and all the insights from the work and journey that you've had over the last few years.
having me. Perfect.
Thank you.